evening, I will be taking part in the Reach Society's networking conversation, Exploring Our Stories Through Words, a discussion with Black writers.
So can we hear from Dr. Marcia Morgan, please?
Good evening, and thank you for the invite. I've written 2 books. The first one's entitled Black Women Prison Employees, The Intersectionality of Gender and Race. And my second book is called The Silenced Voice, There is Purpose in Pain. Hello?
Yeah, you're cutting up a little bit.
Okay. I don't know. You'll have to just let me know when I cut out then, because I'm not quite sure why that is. The reason why I had completed my first book was because when I was doing my master's, I realised that there were no Black women in prison occupational literature, and I felt that Black women had an experience that was being overlooked because the intersectionality of their gender and race was not being taken into account. What I found was that when issues of race was being discussed, it was always dominated by Black men's experience, and issues of gender inequality was always dominated by white women. And the reason for this was because the intersectionality of gender and race was never taken into account. It was important for me to do my PhD to get that credibility when putting forward an idea that there was an issue within organisations that doesn't take into account intersectionality when we're looking at different types of identities and experience. However, in completing my thesis and writing within that academic world, I realised that I was out of touch, and the whole purpose of my research was to make Black women visible and motivate and inspire Black women and others to contribute to knowledge production and to theory, because if you're not part of the discussion, then you can't make any changes. However, in producing my first book, again, in order to get that credibility, it had to go through a certain route, which was down the academic route, in order to be able to stand up to scrutiny, criticism, and etc. However, my second book was that bridge in order to allow everyone to be able to understand what it means to be Black and woman in 2 white male-dominated organisations, such as the prison service and in higher education. What I've done in the second book is use poetry, narrative, and analysis to actually understand the psychology behind the organisations itself, in regards to the fact that a lot of organisations find it very difficult to embrace gender and racial diversity. But not only that, they find it difficult to embrace it, they accept it, but they then don't understand how to relate to it because of the social defences. That's where the psychology of organisations comes into it. And it was important for me to not just identify the struggles and barriers and challenges that I and other Black women face as gendered and racialised subjects, but actually look at ways in which the organisation can change its approach by looking at the psychology of race within white male-dominated organisations. So that's really a nutshell of both my books. One, it's 2 books, encouraging and educating people around the importance of the intersectionality of gender and race, and actually helping people to understand the psychology of organisations from an organisational psychodynamic perspective. But it's written in 2 different ways in order to capture different types of audiences.
All right, thank you. Marcia, I just got a text. Someone says, what's the title of your second book, please?
The second book is called The Silenced Voice, There is Purpose in Pain, and it will be released on the 16th of September.
Is there, as Leslie says, is there a point of ghettoising books that they're only by Black publishers and then their distribution? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the material that you're publishing, but I also think it's important. Yes, we need to make sure that our publications are in mainstream, but then I think we also need to support our Black publishers as well, because what we find is we can, like from my personal experience, where I approached Black publishers for my second book, it was a publisher who's quite an, I guess, ethnically diverse publisher who has set themselves up to say, well, we want more Black authors. So I think it's important to approach different types of publishers. With my academic book, Edwin Mellon Press. They are based in New York. The individuals I was communicating with, they were all white. So I guess it depends on the material and what you feel comfortable with. But I wouldn't say I would ignore black publishers because I just want to publish with mainstream. I think as long as your work is out there, then people are, and you are there promoting your work, then you will get an audience regardless of their ethnicity.
Right.
Donald, can I come in on that question as well?
Yes, please. You're the next person. But before that, Marcia, somebody wanted if you could put details of the publishers, the Panoma Press, if that was possible on the chat, please.
Yeah, I've done that already.
Okay.
Equality. Really? One day there will be change. Equality for all will be the norm. There will be no more pain. My black sister, tormented and afraid. The same old game, but she doesn't want to play. Surrounded by whiteness, suffocating and choked. No hope, full of emptiness, she knows she has to cope. Racial equality, inclusiveness for all. As long as you accept, you still do not belong. Outsider within, looking in. Black women unite, together we can win. As behind every story, there is glory. You can purchase a copy of my book from my website, www.black-women-amazon.com.